Greetings again. This is Dr. Bill Wyatt with the American Orthodontic Society, and I want to spend some time this morning talking to you about Impaction Mechanics. I've worked for several years trying to figure out exactly what would be the best way to bring impacted teeth in, and I came up with this idea of using springs and actually dental floss going in and tying it to the tooth. And I want to cover that with you this morning. And this, to my way, is the most effective way to bring in impacted teeth. Let's try these. There are several different things about it you need to know about. And let's go ahead and get started on it. This will take some time. Now, you need to have four things when you're dealing with an impacted tooth. You need a constant spring. You need something that's pulling with a constant force. In other words, you put it on 1 week and 2 weeks later, you check it and it hadn't lost any of the force except what maybe the tooth has moved in, and that would reduce the amount of force that's on here as this spring pulls this hook in. Now, there's several things you want to do. In other words, the force needs to be constant and it needs to be headed in the direction that you want the tooth to go in. And this does all of that. And also, you need to open the space in here, and we make a arch wire that goes over and circles around, and you put that circle where you want that tooth to go to. And then you've got to put the arch wire and make sure it stays in that same place. You have to tie it back on the other side or tie it back on both sides, and it stays so the pressure is pulling the tooth in one direction, and it's a constant force. And if you can go into it, now making the little hooks that we hook on the teeth, it's better to make them yourself, and I'm going to kind of change this just a little bit. And what we take a little button like that and bond it to the tooth, and then you and try to get this button as close to the point where you're going to move the tooth, and you like to have it. It'd be better if it's up closer here. The better you get to the tip of the tooth, it's hard to put one right on the tip, and when you get down to the tooth, it may be down in a hole somewhere down here, and you just see a part of the tooth, and you have to go in and uncover it and clean and aspirate it, clean it out, and etch it, and put bonding material on it. And we take these little lingual buttons that we use, and we put a stainless steel, soft stainless steel wire. It's 14 thousandths wire, and you run it around that. In other words, you just take it and loop around it and come out on the other side and twist that down, and you can have that wire where when you get this ready to go, you can take this thing and put the bonding material down here and bury that in the bonding material, even though this might be down in a hole like that. And I've never found a tooth I couldn't bring in except one where the cuspid had gone in and cut the root of the central off. I've got a video on that showing that. And you put that on, and you can, as this comes out of the tissue, you can cut it off and bend another hook in it. And if you twist that old 14,000 soft stainless steel wire around that and make it as long as you need it, and you get this wire out further, then you can bend it down and make another hook in it. And that wire will stand about 5 pounds of pressure before it straightens out again in there. So I'm going to erase that now and go back. So here we made a longer deal, this is just a taper dot now, and when it comes up and it bumps in here, you cut it off and recircle it, and then you can get out to where you're just putting the dental floss on the button itself to pull the tooth in, and then you rotate it after you get it there. Now, I think people look at this and get scared off of it, but it is the most efficient way I've ever seen. If you've got a better way of bringing these impactions in, I wish you'd let me know. I will certainly change if you come up with something better than this. Now, I'm going to go through this in step by step and how we make it. Now, we use springs. It's got 036 lumen, and there's 10 thousandths size of the wire in the spring, and you open them up and you open the spring. I'll show you how we fix those up here pretty quick. And you can pull the tooth from the lingual side from this way, and if you want to make this loop on the wire, you can go up like this and make a loop and come down, and you can have the loop up high and pull it down to hook this so it doesn't impinge on the tissue there, and bring the tooth in that way. Or you can go in and put it in from the buccal side if it's wherever the tooth is. All right, now here is the wire. We use a rectangular wire, and you make those little loops where you want the tooth to go. Now, sometimes you want more space in front of this than you have here, and we twist this spring onto this in one piece, and you make more space out here by putting more twists in it and run it out like that, and this one out here. Then you push this spring down and tie the arch wire in, so there'd be more space on one side than there would be on the other if that's what you want in there. So let's go to the next slide. Here's a tooth, and if you come in and your tooth gets close, you can keep cutting this off and curling it up till finally you just put the dental floss onto the lingual button and put it in to the tooth. And I'm not pulling your leg. I have not found an impacted tooth that we couldn't bring it in. If we could get to that tooth to bond something and try to bond it on close to the tip of the tooth as you possibly can. Now here is the spring that we use. It's 10 thousandths, and the lumen in the spring, or the opening in the spring, is 36, and this is 10,000 wire right there. And you have closed coil, and you can have open coil, and you use open coil to open this space up, and the closed coil used to pull it too. Now we take a gerback plier or something and stick it on about 2 or 3 rungs of the spring and bend it out like that. So now you've got your spring, and you'll have some other spring sticking out, and you can do the same thing back at the other end of the spring. So we've got this spring sticking out here, and we'll put dental floss on one end, and we're going to tie the other end back. All right. On the end we're going to tie back, we run a 12 thousandths, it's an 012 soft stainless steel wire, and put one knot in it and pull it down and tighten it up. And so this has a knot in it, and you take this and tie it to the back of one of your molars or wherever you want to pull against. And this is the part we're going to run up and hook to the impacted tooth. Now here we go, coming across that. We'll pull this down and go to the back of the molar, and I'm going to have to tuck this on the last, and then you're going to bring this over and tie it to the tooth that's coming in from the top side over here. Okay, everybody ought to have a Daltrich gauge. I have one around here somewhere I could show you, and it's just a scale where you push this in. Each little rung on that stands for 1 ounce, and you can get 16 ounces of force out of this Daltrich gauge. One end is pushing and the other end is pulling. Now this is the push again right here. If I push this in and pull it to this point right here, then that's 4 ounces of force. Be 8 ounces here. And then this is 12 ounces right here, and this is 16 ounces. In other words, you push it up to here, and you're pushing it with 1 pound of force on that. And the other end is the same way, except it's pulling out on it, and you pull it here, you hook this, and you pull it, and one of these come out, and you pull out. This is 4, 8, and this is 12. In other words, we've got 12 ounces of force if that's the end of your deal here. So this is the other thing. You've got to have a constant force, and you want it to stay there. Now, for a long time, I couldn't figure out why I could get this same pressure. So wax dental floss is the best thing I've ever come up with to do that. So you run this wire and tie it back at this area here, and now we run the dental floss through, and we'll double that dental floss. We're going to double it and slide it. This part here will go through this, go through here, and come up and then back out again. And we'll take this side over here and tie those two together, and it pulls this up to here, and that'll be your 14 ounces of force. And that'll pull in that direction only. Now, when you're pulling on these teeth back here, if the other side of the mouth you've got an impaction over there, and you have, say, 10 or 12 ounces of force, put it on both sides, you actually move the maxillary complex forward as you bring this tooth in here. As this is pulling down here, and this is pulling there. And it raises this up, and it brings your maxillary teeth forward slightly to do that. Now, here, if you wanted to hook a rubber band, and you could, this would make a class 2 even worse by pulling it forward. And if you wanted to, you could hook a rubber band here and go up and hook it on your hook, and it'll do the same thing, except the person has to do it. If you do it this way, the person doesn't have to touch it. Just leave it alone. And then this spring right in here opens this gap up right here, and you can make it open more this way than this way if you want to. And you put this circle in the arch wire right there. And this is just one piece of open coil spring going across there. Now this sounds like and looks complicated, and if you have to figure this out, but it took me several years to actually come up with something that I think did everything you wanted it to as far as bringing the impactions into the mouth. And I've never found a tooth other than that one that just literally ate the central off. It just went across here and ate the root of the central off. And I had to have, I'm going to take the tooth out. And I saved that tooth by bonding it to other teeth. Now, here we're showing you, if you want to do this rubber band, you pull it out and see how much force you got on here, and here's where you're going to curve in and hook it up here, so that distance from here, and you can tell exactly how much force that rubber band's got. Now, rubber bands get weaker as time goes by. The spring will hardly change at all in there, but as the tooth moves toward it, it will lower this length the spring has to check, but it's the same force going in the same direction, but it's slightly less as the tooth comes into the mouth. And here, this is elastic hooked up down here, and this elastic just pulls the teeth together, more or less. Now, I don't use very many. I hardly ever put any elastic. We just do everything with this wire right here, because the person doesn't have to do anything to it. Just don't tear it up, and it'll pull the tooth in, and the tooth of the head into the right position like that. And now you can have it with elastics all over. That just adds to it, but you don't have to do that. Now, I'm going to show you how we run this elastic in. Now, this is hooking this pulling the tooth back, and the spring is pulling it here, and elastic is pulling it that way. We did it this way. This is just show you some other ways that you could use it to pull the tooth a little in one direction. Now, you come off with your elastic, and we're going to double one side, poke it through this, come on, put it on your hook, come back out, and then you take the other end and tie that. Now, here's your spring, and we want to pull this up to here, so we take the dental floss, go through here with a double, hook it on the tooth, come back out here, and go here and here, and we take this and tie that with a double knot, and you pulling this up until you stretch the spring up to here somewhere, and then you tie the knot real tight. And this wax floss, if you're pulling with 10 ounces here, it'll be just darn near 10 ounces going over this way. There's very little friction over that wax floss. You may lose a fraction of an ounce getting through here, so it won't be quite as much as it is at the end of this. Now I'm going to pull that up. See, I'm tying it, and I'm pulling forward on it, and I pull that spring all the way to here and tie it with triple knot, so it can't come undone. I mean, tie it hot. But this is the double floss coming this way. And as it pull it here with, say, 10 ounces, this will be about 9 9/10 full. There'll be very little lost force coming there, pulling it right in the direction it wants to go. So it brings everything up to what's required of bringing impacted teeth into the mouth. And now that's pulling it like that. Now we're coming in here from the inside. Of course, you come in. This is the spring that's opening the gap. Here's the other spring that's pulling the tooth in that direction. And you can make your hooks out of a lot of different material, but I like to use a 14 thousandths wire on that. And here we show you some little deals you can stick in the teeth, but that's not necessary. Now, I hope that this doesn't look so complicated that you can't use it, but it is a most efficient way that I have ever found of bringing impacted teeth into the mouth, and I've brought in every one we could get to it. If you could get to it to bond something on it, you can bring that tooth into the mouth. Now, if it's ankylosed, you got to break it loose and don't break it too much, you'll pull it out. You just sort of loosen it up a little and then hook it in, and we've done some impacted teeth that were impacted that we had to break loose. So thanks for watching, and I hope you'll take this and really use it. It is the best way that I know. And if you're out there and you have a better way to bring these teeth in the mouth, I would like for you to contact me and show me. And if it's anything better than that, I will certainly change it to that. So thanks for watching, and I'm going to sign out and say goodbye.